Muy buenas noches, bienvenidos y bienvenidas a una edición más de los conversatorios de Percusión Costa Rica. Yo soy Juanjo y de verdad que les agradecemos muchísimo la presencia en esta pues grandísima oportunidad que tuvimos, que tenemos en este momento. Agradecerles a todos y a todas por acompañarnos y sacar un ratito de su domingo para compartir con nosotros y el invitado de hoy que, bueno, no necesita presentación, ¿verdad? Comentarles rápidamente que la entrevista está siendo, el conversatorio está siendo transmitido por Facebook Live y también aquí por Zoom, ¿verdad? Entonces, si tuvieran alguna pregunta o alguna cuestión de ese tipo, porfa, nada más levanten la mano y lo vamos a ir atendiendo de esa forma. Esta entrevista va a ser en inglés, este conversatorio va a tener esta cuestión en inglés, pero la traducción va a ser en tiempo real. Entonces, nada más les pedimos paciencia para que me dejen traducir todo lo que vamos a ir conversando con el invitado del día de hoy. Muy bien, déjenme entonces nada más eh, fijarme que ya esté todo listo. Y sí, entonces con eso vamos a empezar de una vez. Vamos a darle el espacio al invitado del día de hoy, que bueno, es el maestro Michael Burritt. Entonces, so we're ready to start. Welcome, Professor Burritt. It is a pleasure to have you with us today. Welcome to Percusión Costa Rica, and the floor is yours.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Juan. I look forward to this, and it's fun to. I mean, it's super fun to connect with people from all over the world, and it's fun for me and inspiring for me to see, the enthusiasm for percussion in different parts of the world, and to meet people that are as excited about what they do as I am, and that's great. And especially, it's been kind of course, weird for all of us the last couple of years. I'm sure, like myself, the traveling has been so much less. I used to travel overseas a lot and internationally quite often, and it's been a long time since I've done that. So these are just at least this provides us a way to connect in a way that had this happened 10 years ago, maybe we couldn't do this. And thank goodness we can,
Yeah.
So anyways, it's great for me, and it's my pleasure to be with you, and I'm happy to be a part of this.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So we're gonna get right to it. So the first question that all of our guests always have as the first one is just to tell us, how did it all started?
How did it all start? Well, obviously you're asking me, musically how it all started, right? And for me, it's a fun story because my parents were both musicians, and they went to music school. For university level music school. My father became a very, very successful band director, educator, and my mother was a clarinetist. When I was younger, they both played in the local professional orchestra when I was a kid in Syracuse, New York, where I was from. So I used to be at rehearsals when I was like, 4 years old, running around the symphony rehearsals. But I kind of followed music all through my life. So when I was even like like what we call elementary school, or like, very young, 5 to 12 years old, I would like run up and watch my father's band rehearsals, whether it be marching band or their jazz band rehearsals or the concerts. And so I was kind of wrapped up in that, and I really loved it. And So it became a part of my life as a young person. And we listened to a lot of music in the house. I mean, we listened to, and it was kind of fun because we listened to all kinds of music in the house. Um, we listened to everything from, Beethoven symphonies, Aaron Copland, William Schumann, Samuel Barber, Shostakovich all the time, to even like things like the group Chicago that was popular like back in the 60s, Blood, Sweat and Tears. My father turned me on to all that stuff, and jazz things like Mel Lewis and Thad Jones and modern jazz quartet. So this was all going on in my house. And which I think, at the time I didn't know any different. It seemed like a normal thing to me. I'd hear my father and mother listening to these recordings, or we'd listen to them, or we'd listen to them in the car. And I go to concerts all the time. So for me, it was such a big part of my life that it really consumed me, and it became something that I loved, just like they did. And because of that, I feel very fortunate because I think hearing all that music and being exposed to all those things as a young person really formed me, and I think helped me too a lot as a musician. Even now, I see it. So my father was a great educator, a great motivator, a fine musician. My mother was also great. She became a very, very popular clarinet teacher. A lot of private students she was teaching in the area. So, you know, they were great teachers. I saw that up close. I learned from that. My grandmother, who was not a musician, ironically, who lived only a few blocks from me, who was a really her and my grandfather were super important people to me. But she was a great. She taught math, but she was a great teacher, and always, I think, projected, the idea that teaching and education is super important. So, I think at a young age, I just fell into it, and I always knew that I wanted to be a, musician. I used to say I'm going to be a performer. I used to tell my dad I'm going to be a performer, and so I think it's been fun for me because I feel like my career has really become what I call the word we use, and I'm sure there's a word. It's symbiotic, works together, like my playing and my teaching and my writing, my composing, and all of it kind of works in one symbiotic way for me. And one without the other would feel strange to me. But I have to say, I think my real love is my students and my ability to work with them and, have an impact in their lives. They have an impact in my life. So I'm sure that came from my watching my family do it as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems that, as you said, like music was a part of your life since the beginning. So it's no surprise that you ended up going into the music scene. But so now I'm gonna ask you just for a little bit of time because I have to translate all of this.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I said a lot. Probably talked too much. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I have a transcript right here, so that's a good thing
great.
Zoom has.
Great. Go ahead. Fire away.
Yeah. Ok, entonces, díganme si todo el mundo entendió, pues podemos brincarnos esta parte, pero sí puedo hacer el resumen para las personas que nos están escuchando por Facebook Live. Bueno, el maestro lo que nos estaba diciendo era que inició en un hogar que ya tenía mucha experiencia con la música porque su papá era un director de bandas y su mamá era clarinetista y entonces desde muy joven estaba expuesto a muchísimo tipo de música. Cuando estaba joven tocaron, cuando estaban jóvenes tocaron en una orquesta profesional, y pues él andaba cuando era chiquitillo corriendo por los ensayos y todo, ¿verdad? Entonces, y que también tuvo la oportunidad de estar expuesto a muchísima música diferente, Beethoven, Aaron Copland, Samuel Barber y todos estos artistas, ¿verdad? Y que, vamos a ver qué más. Y también, gracias a su papá, lo expuso a cuestiones de jazz también, ¿verdad? Mel Lewis y el Modern Jazz Quartet también. Vamos a ver. Dice que gracias a estas influencias le ayudaron a tener una perspectiva más grande de la música. Y que él también pudo ver a muchos profesores y también aprendió mucho de su abuela también. Sí, es que dijo muchas cosas y estoy aquí leyendo. Ok. Y dice que desde muy pequeño supo que quería ser un músico y que solía decir que él iba a ser un ejecutante. Y le solía decir al papá que él iba a ser un ejecutante. Entonces eso es como un resumen, pero porfa, pueden decirme ahí en el chat si vamos bien con el inglés o si les parece si hacemos estos cortes para ir traduciendo. Ok, let's keep going. So, why percussion?
Wow, good question. I think I just was always fascinated with drums as a young person. I mean, from like the age of 5, I used to learn. I remember memorizing the percussion parts to my father's marching band shows with his drum line, with his band. I was like memorizing and then kind of learning them. I don't know. It'd be fun. I wish I had recordings of myself playing these on like my desk and stuff. I wonder how good it was, but I used to have a way of playing them and I would learn it. And I wanted a drum set when I was a little kid. And so I was always into that. I found was very fascinated with that instrument. And so I can't say when the first time it happened. I know that my uncle bought me a little red snare drum, I think when I was 5 for Christmas. You know, and I think my parents didn't know about that. And I think they were like, oh no, you got a snare drum in the house, you know. But it was it was kind of a toy snare drum. It wasn't bad though, actually. I can still see that drum now. But so I don't know. It could have been that might have triggered it, but I just always was fascinated with it. And I loved it. And I kind of just stayed with it, I guess. You know, there wasn't a moment I can remember like that was that moment. But you know, I think I do remember though being, you know, like probably around 13 or somewhere in that age, and we were doing auditions for you had to learn some pieces for what they call the all county band or the all county orchestra, these kind of things. I was like a middle school, you know, kind of adolescent. And I learned some pieces, a kind of a multi-percussion piece by Sandy Feldstein I had to learn, and some snare drum stuff and whatever I did. And I went and I, you know, I think I was in 8th grade. And I remember I got into all county, but my father, because he was an educator and a pretty well-known one, he got the scores and he came back and said, hey, he told my mom, and my mom told me, hey, guess what? You got #1 in the county. I was like, I got first in the county. Wow. You know, I couldn't believe it. You know, I was like, you know, I remember being in my bedroom just practicing the stuff. And so then I kind of thought like, well, you know, #1 in the county, I must be pretty good, you know? So, but I think that, you know, it's like when you're a kid, you have successes like that, and it sort of helps you form an identity for who you are, you know, whether you're really good at basketball or baseball or music or whatever it is you're good at. It could be drama, it could be a lot of things. It could just be writing and schoolwork. But that was my thing, you know. It's like, and it helped me feel, I think, you know, I think this is really important for a lot of young people. Like, it gave me something that I felt good about, something that I felt confidence in, something that I identified with anyways. And then, you know, so that kind of just even made me go further with it in that way. So, and I just always loved it. You know, I remember getting a drum set for Christmas one year. Well, actually, there's 2 funny stories about getting a drum set. One, I got a drum set when I was, I think, about 6 or 7 years old for Christmas. And I snuck down stairs in the middle of the night and saw that it was there. Like, you know, Santa Claus left the drum set. And I couldn't believe it. I was so excited. This is kind of a toy drum set, but I was like thrilled. But the first thing I did was like, I wanted to take off the drum so I could march with it. So I went to the basement of the house at like 2 in the morning, and I'm getting tools so I could unscrew the drums off the mount so I could get it on, you know? So, and then I remember later getting a real drum set when I was maybe, you know, 7th or 8th grade. And I was really thrilled about that. And I remember always, like, at night, I would look at it in my room and make sure it was set up just the way I wanted it to look. It had to look just super great. And it's almost like having your nice car, you know? So I don't know. I was always fascinated with those things, and I loved it. And I still do. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Too much for you to have to translate now. Sorry, you know.
Oh, no, it's fine. The transcript is, you know, doing wonders for me.
That's good. That's good.
And it seems that most of the people are okay with just keep going in English, but I don't know from the people that are watching through Facebook Live. So I just have to make sure that everyone.
Yeah, no, of course, no problem.
I mean, entonces, vamos a ver. Bueno, dice que desde el principio estuvo fascinado por los instrumentos de percusión, como desde los 5 años, que también recordaba aprenderse de memoria partes de percusión de la marching band de su papá, de los shows de la marching band de su papá, y que, vamos a ver qué más. Bueno, que desearía tener grabaciones de cuando eso pasó para ver qué tan bueno era, y que también siempre quiso una batería, que estaba fascinado por el instrumento, que dice que el primer tambor que se acuerda es un pequeño redoblante rojo que su tío le regaló, y que cuando tenía 5 años para Navidad, y que eran como, oh no, le consiguieron un redoblante, ¿verdad? Todos aquí sabemos el problema de las caras de los papás cuando usted recibe su primer tambor, ¿verdad? Es todo un tema. Vamos a ver qué más. Dice que pudo haber sido eso lo que le dio como el inicio o el empujón para meterse de lleno a la cuestión de la percusión y la música. Que dice que se acuerda también al tener 13 años o alrededor de esa edad, que estaban haciendo audiciones para aprenderse piezas de lo que llamaban la Old County Band o la banda de todo el condado, que era una orquesta más o menos, ¿verdad? Y que cuando usted está más o menos en el colegio, es un adolescente, estaba aprendiendo piezas de multipercusión de Sandy Feldstein y tenía que aprenderse cosas de redoblante y demás cosas. Y que cuando estaba por ahí del octavo grado, se acuerda que, bueno, lo aceptaron en la banda o en la orquesta. Menciona que el papá, que era educador bastante conocido, le dio las partituras y le dijo a la mamá, y la mamá le dijo que bueno, pasó a la orquesta, y que él se puso como, bueno, pasé a la orquesta, debo ser así bastante bueno, ¿verdad? Y que, bueno, son experiencias que tiene también por ahí. Eh, que dice que gracias a este tipo de experiencias son como lo que le da la identidad, ¿verdad? Que hay gente que se da cuenta que es muy buena en básquetbol o en música o en una cuestión así, que son esos momentos donde se da uno cuenta de que esas son como sus cosas, ¿verdad? Y que él piensa que estos momentos son muy importantes para todas las personas. Y que también se acuerda que una de las historias graciosas es que cuando tenía como 6 o 7 años le regalaron una batería, perdón, para Navidad, y que se fue bueno, no me acuerdo cómo se dice basement, se me olvidó, el sótano, a revisarla porque él quería como zafarle los fierros para poder usarla para marchar con los tambores, ¿verdad? Este, y que sí, que son ese tipo de historias, ¿verdad? Donde él encuentra que él estaba bastante emocionado por estas cuestiones con estos tambores que le hicieron darse cuenta que eso era lo que a él más le llamaba la atención. Eh, y también él decía que esto era como que había que tenerlo bien chañadito, ¿verdad? Porque es como el carro así de último modelo, ¿verdad? Um, y sí, ok. Recuerden que si tuvieran preguntas o una cosa así, pueden levantar la mano, porque estos momentos es donde yo voy a pasar a la siguiente pregunta, pero si hay alguna otra pregunta, aquí es el momento donde pueden mandarla, ¿ok? Ok, uh, let's keep going. Um, so now that you decided that this this whole percussion thing is gonna be your thing, um, uh, you were already set on it since high school, practically, right?
Yeah, even before in some ways.
Even
Yeah.
before, yeah. Um, so, can you tell us a little bit about your experience getting into the higher degrees? Getting your bachelor and all that process.
Yeah, I mean, I went to some really good schools. I started off going to Ithaca College. Ithaca is a school that was fairly close to my house, not always an hour and a half from where I live. But the great thing was when I started going there, my first couple of years was with Gordon Stout, the famous marimbist composer and great, teacher, was teaching there. And I had met Gordon when I was a little younger, so I knew about him and I'd seen him play. And I wasn't really much of a keyboard player, really. I mean, I played marimba because I knew I had to learn it. So I played some pieces and I could play, but I was more of a, drum set player, snare drummer, timpani player. I was, but Gordon really inspired me to really get much better at the marimba. And also he gave me a great vision for being a performer, composer type person. It was really inspiring to me to see that. So I was there for a couple of years and then I moved from there and transferred to finish my bachelor's degree at the Eastman School of Music, where I studied with John Beck. And that was actually Gordon had suggested, you got to get to Eastman, he said. So I went to Eastman and worked with John Beck, of course, who's still he called me today. I'm glad I brought his, I had to call him back, but I remember, but great teacher, has become one of my great friends and a very important person in my life as a mentor and everything. But so I came here and studied with him, and what a great experience. Eastman's such a a marvel. I mean, obviously I teach here now, but when I was a kid, I always loved Eastman. Was like Mecca for me. Eastman was like the place to be. And I was able to go to school here. Actually, when I was really young, when I was a ninth grader, about 15 years old, I went to the very first PASIC at Eastman because our drumline played for a marching clinic. And so we played at Eastman. I didn't know what was going on, but I was playing one of the bass drums and I was a little kid. I was like, ninth grade, had long hair. A guy named Fred Sanford, who was a very famous marching percussion teacher at the time, director, drum corps guy, was the clinician. We used our drum line. We stood in the big theater at Eastman. And, it's really ironic now to think about that. Here I was at 15 standing there. Now I teach there, kind of a crazy thing, but I always wanted to go there. My father and mother had a big respect for Eastman and talked about it all the time. And my father had all the Eastman Wind Ensemble recordings. So back in the 60s and 70s, well, they were recorded mostly in the 50s, but they were like very, very famous recordings from the Eastman Wind Ensemble of all the very famous wind band repertoire, from Vaughan Williams to Holst to Percy Granger, all that kind of stuff. And so anyways, my father had it. So I always knew about the wind ensemble. I always knew about Eastman. So I got to go there and I did both my bachelor's and master's degree there, which was great. Tremendous experience. Learned a lot, both from John Beck and from my other professors there. Playing in the ensembles was tremendous because it was such great high-level musicians all around you. And my studio mates, my fellow percussionists, the students that I went to school with, there's so many great talented people that you're just in the practice rooms with and learning from. You learn from me. It was a great environment of learning from each other and supporting each other and inspiring each other that I've tried to carry on now. And so it was a really important time in my life, and it really launched me. I think really helped me capture even a stronger vision for what I wanted to do, and also raise my level of expectation for what excellence was and what true great musicianship was. So I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful now that I get to be a part of it now. So.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and what an interesting thing it is to have teachers that work as mentors and push you into getting like way ahead of what you were thinking at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kind of experiences you get to have thanks to your teachers that are already far ahead from you at that time, but so they can help you.
Yes.
Get to where you want to be.
And they can find a vision. They can find a vision for you.
Sure.
And if they're good, they're great teachers are the ones that see all their students as individuals, and they can help them find their own vision, but they can see something for them in it, which is great, which is what I feel very fortunate that I've had that,
Yeah. And we're going to go back to the teachers aspect of this story in a moment. So I'm going to translate now. This will be quick.
No problem.
Entonces, bueno, él está comentando que empezó a estudiar en Ithaca College con Gordon Stout y que, bueno, por sugerencia de Gordon, entonces él pasó a Eastman, que para él Eastman era como la meca, ¿verdad? Entonces, era un lugar súper importante y todavía sigue siendo un lugar muy importante y que también tuvo la oportunidad de estar en el primer PASIC que se llevó a cabo en Eastman, con el ensamble con el drum corps que estaba por ahí, con las cuestiones de percusión de marcha. Y que, bueno, vamos a ver qué más. Menciona sobre el ensamble de vientos de Eastman, que tenía una fama enorme en los 60, 70, que gracias a eso tocaba música de muchísimos autores demasiado importantes. Y bueno, que su profesor fue John Beck, ¿verdad? También estaba diciendo que tiene que devolver la llamada porque hoy lo llamó, pero no lo pudo devolver la llamada, entonces que tiene que hacer eso. Y que toda esta experiencia fue pues bastante grande e importante y que también él tuvo la oportunidad de rodearse de grandes ejecutantes y músicos que estaban a la par en los cuartos de estudio, a la par de él, y que él quería, bueno, él quiere ahora que está en Eastman, promover ese mismo ambiente con sus propios estudiantes. Entonces empezamos a hablar un poquito de la importancia de los mentores y los profesores a la hora del proceso de cada uno de nosotros, ¿verdad? Como estudiantes, ¿verdad? Entonces, muy bien. Este es como el resumen, porque es que dijo bastantes cosas, pero eh, si tienen preguntas, este es el momento de ir levantando las manos para ponerlos aquí, porque yo tengo una serie de preguntas que tenía preparadas acá, pero sí quiero darles el chance a todos ustedes, ya sea también por Facebook Live, para hacerle una pregunta al maestro. Entonces, si tienen alguna pregunta en estos momentos, pueden levantar la mano. Si no, vamos con la que, las que tengo yo por acá. So I was just telling them that I have a couple of questions that I prepared, but that if anyone has a question right now, it would be the best time to do it before we go into those ones. But it seems no one has questions.
Are they shy?
I think that's the thing. They might be shy.
Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Uh,
All questions are good questions. You know?
yeah, all questions are good questions. Todas las preguntas son buenas preguntas. Entonces, si tienen preguntas, este es el momento. Okay, so let's keep going then. I have some more specific questions that I think it will be a good time to start talking about those ones. So the first one is going to be, what would be your advice? Let me just give you some context on this one. A lot of people are just starting their journey in percussion land, right? Be at just starting their bachelor's degree or just getting into one of the community schools around the country. The musical landscape in Costa Rica is not the same as in the States, where you have like music education in the middle school, high school, like bands and all that stuff. It's not
Sure.
that well funded. So there's just like a handful of places where you can have like the same level. Um, so a lot of people kind of start late, and big quotations on that, late. But so the whole context is different. So what would be your advice to people that are either just starting or already started and are starting to discover the many things you can do in percussion?
I think my advice would be that that stay with it, not because I would be trying to encourage anyone to do it professionally unless that was something they really felt compelled to do it. They were really excited about that idea. But I think staying with it and being involved in music at any level is really enriching part of your life. You know, it's something that I think is a very. I just I know people that are still playing instruments now that are not professionals. We actually at Eastman we have this area of the school called the Community Music School, and within the Community Music School there's a program called New Horizons, which is really great, and it's a program that was actually established probably I think in the mid 1980s. So, gosh, 40 years ago or something, and it was established to help actually initially people that were retiring to continue playing or even learn to play an instrument. And it got so big that they have like 4 different concert bands and jazz bands and orchestras in this area alone that are like people that are in there maybe 50s, 60s, and 70s that are playing in these groups, studying. Maybe they played when they were young or they continue to play. But that's just an example of it. Now they're all over the country. There's like over 250 of these New Horizons organizations all over the country where people are continuing to play their instruments in their, in their retirement years, or maybe just pre and right around that time in retirement years. But also, I just think it, I think it makes you. First of all, it's great to play music because you usually, the best part about playing music is playing with others, and you get to work with others, and making music with others is a fantastic experience. So on that level, and of course, I think it just stretches you, it helps you think creatively and helps you problem solve and all these other kind of things that are actually proven, I think, through scientific study. But on top of it, as percussion specifically, I think, percussion is great. Everyone needs a drummer, So, I can tell you that at Eastman, everyone wants my students all the time, whether it be, of course, they have to play in the large, the orchestras and the wind ensembles, and they play in my percussion ensemble, and there's other things. But then there's always the saxophone ensemble needs a percussionist, and the brass guild needs a percussionist. And now the new music group is doing, everyone, not, of course, the jazz groups. But and percussion is kind of fun because to me, I feel really blessed to have grown up. I went to high school in the 70s and then college in the 80s, and I've been a professional since around 1985. So during my lifetime, I have seen percussion transform immeasurably, both, I mean, in just so many areas, from the techniques that we do. I remember being a kid and learning Lee Stevens' technique as a young man, not realizing it was something special until later because I was too young to even know. So I just learned this thing. Things like that with marimba, like this stuff that's gone on with repertoire. People writing a ton of music for percussion now. Both people like myself who are percussionists that like to compose, but also Pulitzer Prize winning composers, Joseph Schwantner and David Lang and Jacob Druckmann. And we've been going on about this. Tan Dun from China is writing great music for us. It just goes on and on. Stuff you couldn't even imagine in the 70s and even 80s. Now we have great composers writing really interesting, innovative, and exciting music for us. I was just watching a video of the new Philip Glass piece that was written for Third Coast Percussion. It's really, really great. So it's exciting to see percussion grow, and the many possibilities within percussion, whether it be like classical percussion and orchestral percussion, solo percussion, chamber music with percussion, world percussion, marching percussion. Of course, percussion is involved in jazz, and so there's just electronic stuff that's happening now. So it's kind of a really wonderfully multifaceted genre percussion is, and I think that's also one of the things that makes Percussive Art Society so compelling, is that there's so many different sort of rooms to our organization. The keyboard people that are interested in marimba and vibraphone, the orchestral people that are interested in symphony orchestra, the world music people, the marching percussion people, like I said, and then you have new music area that's really focused on, and more than that too, but we all like to learn from each other. And I think percussionists are really good at that. We're really good at sharing. We're really good at opening our eyes and trying to learn from those that are doing things differently. Whether it be a different area of percussion to someone in our area that's doing some new exciting things. So I don't know, it's a really compelling field to me, and I feel really, like I said, I feel really blessed that I got to grow up in a time through my school years and through my professional years where percussion is really transformed into something quite amazing. And it's something, I think it's become one of the preeminent art forms in the 21st century, quite frankly. So.
Okay. So
that gives you a lot. That gives you a lot to translate, right?
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, keep. You say keep at it. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that would be like.
Keep at it. I mean, keep at it, because whether you're going to be professional or not, it's great. And there's so many people too. I'll say this last thing about this question. I remember I used to play in it when I lived in Chicago, because my job before Eastman was teaching at a great school in Chicago, Northwestern University. I taught there for a long time. It was a great job. And I loved it. I had a church I went to where I played drums and with a lot of amateurs, but they were good musicians. They were not professionals, but they still played really well. But I can't tell you the number of people that were like really successful businessmen and women that would come up to me and go, I wish I learned to play an instrument. Oh, I wish, I see you guys playing, and I wish I had learned, because they see that and they think, man, I wish I had that skill. And these are things we take for granted because we've been doing it for a long time. But it's kind of, and it's never too late, right? So, but it's a great thing to hold on to and stay with. Sorry, okay. I'm blabbing on too much. I'm sorry, Juan.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. I will definitely have to have like a separate text file with the big questions translated and all that stuff. So I'm just gonna be like summarizing for now. Sure. Okay. Entonces, bueno, como ustedes vieron, la respuesta fue bastante larga. Entonces, el resumen es que no importa en el momento en que se encuentren, si están empezando o ya llevan bastante tiempo, es que se mantengan haciendo lo que están haciendo, que se mantengan estudiando, que se mantengan tocando, porque todo mundo, él dice, necesita percusionistas, y eso es cierto. El ensamble de jazz necesita percusionistas, saxofones, música de cámara, etcétera. Todo mundo necesita percusionistas. Entonces, siempre va a existir la posibilidad de tocar, y hay demasiadísimas avenidas por las cuales uno puede dedicarse en el mundo de la percusión, que cuestión de música orquestal, música del mundo, enseñanza, etcétera, etcétera. Hay muchos caminos, ¿verdad? Entonces, ustedes van a ir descubriendo eso conforme sigan, pero tienen que mantenerse en esto, ¿verdad? Entonces, bueno, él estaba contando varias anécdotas que creo que me tomaría como unos 5 minutos empezar a comentarles, pero vamos a encontrar la forma de tal vez sacar un texto aparte traducido para con la respuesta completa. Entonces, para no poner mucho tiempo ahí, el resumen es ese, que hay que mantenerse en lo que estamos haciendo. Ok. ¿Tienen preguntas? Recuerden que este es el momento, porfa. Mándense. Saludos a las personas que nos están viendo por Facebook Live también. Ok, tenemos una pregunta. Josué, ¿no quiere mandarse en vivo preguntando?
Puede ser, sí.
Ok, entonces sí, entonces para que ponga ahí la camarita y aparezca. Entonces, so we have a question from
Yeah.
Josué. So he's gonna ask a question. Muchas gracias, Josué. Bienvenido.
Okay.
Um, Hi,
Hi, how are
Mr.
you?
Burritt. Very good, thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Yeah, my question is, how you become a professor of Eastman? How was the process to become a professor at Eastman School of Music?
Specifically, like auditioning for that job in particular, or do you mean it in a bigger way, becoming like, how did I get to be professor at Eastman? Do you mean it?
And a bigger way, I think so.
Yeah. So I started teaching university when I was 23. I was fortunate. I got a job after 1 year of my master's degree. I got this job teaching in Ohio at a small school. Actually, it's a big school. It's a big university, but the music school is not that big, called Kent State University. I taught there for 10 years. It was great. Learned a ton. Learned a lot about myself. Didn't think I was going to teach. I thought I was going to do other things, but then I realized how much I loved teaching, and it provided me like my own sort of laboratory for writing music and performing whatever I wanted to perform. But I think, years of success of teaching, you have successful students. Your students, I always tell my students, they make me look good, because if they do great things, then you look like a good teacher, So, I had that job. Then I went to Northwestern, which was a fantastic opportunity in Chicago. I taught there for 13 years. And I think that put me in a really great position to be considered for the Eastman position, because that was, at the time, of course, that was a big job. John Beck was retiring, and that was a big moment. That was 14 years ago, 2008. So actually, this is Eastman now. It's my 14th year at Eastman. This is now the longest place I've ever taught at. So I taught at 3 different schools. And so I was at Northwestern 13 years, and now here 14. So it's kind of fun, and it goes by fast. So, in that way, just, I think finding out who I am, one of my great friends, Anders Ostrand, who's a fantastic percussionist from Sweden, who you should have on this show. It's a great vibraphonist and composer and teacher. Always says learning to get comfortable in your own shoes. And part of that is sort of figuring out who you are, what you want to do, and who you want to be. And I think I figured that out. And I worked hard at that. And I was able to create my own thing, traveling and playing solo music, or playing music with ensembles as soloists, writing music for people to play. People that were interested in the music I was playing were playing it around the world, which was very fortunate. All those things gave me, an identity in the field, and I think that was attractive to Eastman. And as well as the success of my students in the program that I had built and worked on at Northwestern at the time. So so the Eastman thing was great. It worked out great. It felt, and when I started the job, I felt like one of the easiest transitions my whole life. Just going to Eastman, start teaching there was like super fun. Probably because I had been teaching for about 23 years at that point. So, and at that level, and the Northwestern job was, some would say that it's no different than the Eastman job. It was an exceptional music school. So it was a great transition for me. And and then specifically, I had to audition, I had to play a recital, I had to teach students in a master class, I had to conduct a percussion ensemble, I had to do all these things. It was a very long morning. It was like, I think I played a recital at 9 a.m. and then I taught students from about maybe 9:45 to 10:30. Then I conducted the percussion ensemble, and then I went out and had interviews, and those are long days. But I kind of enjoy those days, because I enjoy going and doing my thing and meeting people, and So it's always been something I think I've been good at because I enjoy doing those things. And I think that's helped me be successful in those moments. So I guess that's how I got it, so. And, of course, the Eastman people knew me, but they were auditioning other people that were not former graduates of the Eastman School, were also in the finals for the position that I was fortunate to get. So they were looking beyond the scope of people that had gone to school there. But I think they saw me as someone who would be a good fit there, that would be the right kind of person to take over from what John Beck had established and kind of move it forward. So that's what I'm trying to do.
Thanks.
Sure.
Ok, muchas gracias a Josué por la pregunta, ahí al maestro Josué, que también ha estado con nosotros. So I'm gonna quick translate this. Entonces, la pregunta era que cómo llegó a ser el profesor de Eastman, ¿verdad? En el sentido más grande, no solamente de la audición y de ganar el puesto, digamos, sino que él le atribuye ese logro a sus 13 años trabajando en Northwestern, la Universidad de Northwestern, y todo el proceso de la cátedra que dejó por allá, y que, bueno, cuando él ya aplicó a Eastman, pues el jurado le pareció que la experiencia y los resultados de sus propios estudiantes durante ese periodo, pues le valía suficientes credenciales para ser la persona que iba a reemplazar a John Beck en Eastman. Entonces, y ok, esa sería. Okay, so looks like people are not shy anymore. we have one question here, and we have another question in Facebook, from Facebook Live's feed. So let me just look for that one. But I'm gonna go with the one that we have on the chat right here. This is from Victor. He says that I would like to know, or maybe he's asking for recommendations on setting up your percussion program in a pre-college level. So if there's any recommendations or insight you can give.
I mean, that's a big question.
it is a big question.
Kind of a big question. I would just say, my philosophy would always be to help the students experience a broad range of areas within percussions. You want to start by making sure that they have good fundamentals. The fundamentals of percussion and learning how to make good sounds on all the instruments, and providing them opportunities to play together in an ensemble. Work, and of course working on solo music too, and and making sure, depending on the school or the pre-college program, they probably need to also be prepared to play in an orchestra or a wind ensemble too. So kind of, so working on, I always call like the basic R&Rs of percussion, working on snare drum and timpani and keyboard percussion, and then working on your accessory instruments, your tambourine, your cymbals, your triangle, getting all that stuff going. But setting up a good foundation of, they understand how to make good sounds and how their technique is going to be a big part of that. How they approach instruments, how they move when they play, and understanding all those basic things is probably the most important thing. And making a curriculum that will help them accomplish that. And deciding how you want to start. Start them here, with some snare drum, maybe with some keyboard stuff, and move them through that. Then move them into timpani once they get their physical skills going. And work on their ear training as they're doing all of this too, help make them, not only like learn the keyboard music, but have them doing some singing maybe as they're doing it as well, especially when they get the timpani, of course, too. So, and I think actually it's kind of fun to have students learn to like improvise when they're younger, get them to start thinking more intuitively, kind of play with them, make them kind of improvise, even if it's just rhythmic improvisation, they can play with you and trade. I mean, I did it when my son was really young. We used to trade fours when he was like 5 years old. I taught him to play in 4-bar phrases in simple ways on the drum set. And then we learned to trade fours. And I think because of that, his understanding of musical phrase and his comfort with rhythm has always been really strong, Those are things sometimes we forget that are good for young kids to get at that age, at that point. So I don't know, all those things. So, and obviously you want to, I think if you have success, you can, then bring that success to the people who are in charge and say, I need to buy another marimba, or I need another set of timpani, or all those kind of things are important, you know. So, because, you know, that's how it works, right? You got to have stuff, you got to have the gear. So I think I have one more thing too. I was going to say, and this is something that I think is really important. I think one of the most important parts of my job is setting up the right kind of positive environment, so that they're in an environment that is a welcoming environment, one where they don't feel intimidated because they're going to see other people that can do things better than them. And sometimes, you know, there's always that balance of those things, but that everyone in that environment knows that they're there together to learn from each other and from you as the teacher. And you're going to learn from them as the teacher too. And then it's kind of it's a situation. I always say we're going to inspire each other. We're going to learn from each other. We're going to come alongside each other. That's an important thing. And even at a young age, I think, to represent and create an environment like that. Because if people see that and see that kind of positive energy, other students are going to want to be a part of that.
Ok, Víctor, si eso contesta su pregunta o necesita que le hagamos traducción, igual voy a hacer traducción, pero si usted la necesita, voy a hacerla lo más cercana posible a todo lo que dijo. Entonces, si me puede decir ahí por el chat si eso contestó su pregunta. Ok, so quick translation again. Entonces, la pregunta era sobre cómo formar un programa preuniversitario, ¿verdad? Para niños y jóvenes, y lo que nos contesta el maestro es que tiene que ser un lugar que cubra las cuestiones básicas, ¿verdad? Redoblante, teclados, timpani, triángulo, platillos, ¿verdad? De forma en que todos los estudiantes tengan una formación integral antes de llegar a nivel universitario. Y también una cuestión muy importante es que sea en un ambiente positivo, que no importa si pues hay personas que estén tocando cuestiones más avanzadas que las que está tocando uno, pero no importa, porque todo el mundo entiende que todos están ahí para aprender de entre todos y de usted como el profesor. Y hasta uno como profesor termina aprendiendo de ellos mismos también. Entonces, también tener el equipo, que eso es necesario, y ahorita le voy a comentar a él, que bueno, esa es una de las dificultades que tenemos en Costa Rica, ¿verdad? No es tan fácil conseguir equipo. Solo las universidades y algunas personas individuales tienen alguna cantidad de equipo, ¿verdad? Que les permite hacer lo que hacen. Entonces, sí, cubrir las bases, conseguir el equipo, pero sobre todo, o sea, de nada sirven esas dos si no se está en un ambiente positivo en el que la prioridad de todo el mundo es aprender entre ellos, entre todos, y apoyarse entre todos. ¿Ok? Muy bien. Okay, so that was a quick translation because Victor says that he was okay with the English part of it. Okay, we have another question here from Victor. Another question. He says, what would you say to someone that wants to work his way as a marimba performer? What kind of, from your experience, what kind of opportunities do you see in the future for people that kind of want to go into full-time marimba performers?
Well, I think of course, I think anyone that has their eyes open would know that that's a difficult thing to do, you know, to be just a marimba performer, you know, to be honest. And I certainly don't just do that. But I think there are ways to make part of what you do as a musician, as a performer, be marimba concerts. You have this, you know, I think like most things, you know, we have an area of the Eastman School called the, it's a section of the school that the students can take classes in. It's called the Institute for Music Leadership. And they teach the students to have entrepreneurial skills, meaning like skills that can help them sort of create opportunities for themselves, you know. And I think, I feel like I've had to do a lot of that myself by writing pieces and then sort of creating a voice for myself as a performer. You know, part of my voice for myself is the pieces I play that I've written, and then the pieces that have been written for me as well. There are some other composers, you know, over a period of time, people like Alejandro Viñao and more recently John Zothis and others. So you know, that gives you a part of your own voice and your own style, and you kind of grow to learn that voice later. I think you have to have something to say that way. You have to have your own voice. That helps. But I also think you need to be smart about it and realize that you're going to have to do a variety of things to sustain a lifestyle of be able to pay the bills, be able to pay for a place to live and food on the table. Means you're gonna have to do some teaching, maybe playing both, not just solo music as a marimba player, but also chamber music and getting involved in situations. And depending on your interests and your skills, maybe you focus on marimba, and that's something that you do, and you are trying to, you know, over a period of time, gain more opportunity and create an avenue for yourself to carve out more and more opportunities to perform concerts. But as you're doing that, you might want to make sure you can do some other things as a percussionist, if you are, you know, that you can do to sustain yourself. You know, I think drum set's a really important thing because you can. When I was younger, especially, I played a lot of drum set gigs. You know, I had a really cool jazz group I played with when I was younger every weekend, and but I did a lot of show things, you know, and recording things, or I would play for these pop bands that would pay for big parties, and you would make a lot of money. You'd play up in the cities, and you'd play with like, you know, kind of pop groups that were playing tough, you know, just for like big, you know, kind of like business parties, but they were like bands that would play for these. Anyways, different kind of ways to make some money. And then I could do my passion. I could write music that I wanted to write. I could get an opportunity to play a concert somewhere because I wanted to do it. So I think, you know, kind of carving your way that way, but always kind of sort of looking to figure out who you are as a player within marimba. In this case, you know, what do I want to play more transcriptions? Do I want to write music for myself? Do I want to commission new music? Am I going to do a combination of all those things? What's my voice going to be? What do I have as a passion, and where do I see myself being successful within that? And I think you just kind of continue to work on that, you know, and then, you know, you try to make connections and reach out to people. You probably have to do some free performances and say, hey, I'd love to come play at your school, or if your festival, have an opportunity for me to play at your festival, or try to give yourself avenues to do it. But I think it's a difficult thing to count on as a full-time career, just playing solo marimba. That's pretty tough, you know. And if someone can do it, man, that's great. If that works out, and someday that there's an opportunity for people to be a solo marimbist full time. Because I think most of my friends that are considered marimbists, and whether it be myself or someone like Pius Chang or Eric Odamo, his lovely wife, a great marimba player. Nancy Zaltzman, a great friend of mine who teaches at BOCO, Boston Conservatory, and others I mentioned. If you like, you know, Lee Stevens, who was just here last week, gave a concert at Eastman last week. You know, he has his own business. He's written music. He's got different things going on. Nancy teaches in Boston and does things. I teach at Eastman and do concerts. Pius Chang teaches in Oregon. Erico teaches at Juilliard Prep School. Different people do different things, but also because they like to teach, but also because that's just part of sustaining a lifestyle. I don't know. I hope that helps. It makes some sense, you know.
So we could to summarize a little bit, it would be like to find a balance without losing the sight of the.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Yeah.
Okay.
Being responsible, yeah.
Of course. So, yeah, entonces, la pregunta era que cómo se hace un camino uno para volverse ejecutante de la marimba y ser ese su camino profesional. El resumen de la respuesta es que no pierda de vista el objetivo que tiene, que es ser ejecutante, ¿verdad? Pero busque un balance, porque es un camino demasiado difícil por muchas razones. Entonces, no hay nada de malo en buscar formas alternativas de mantener de mantenerse usted activo como ejecutante y de poco a poco ir haciéndose también su camino en el instrumento que usted gusta. Entonces, gracias a Víctor por esa pregunta. Okay, so we have a couple. Oh, okay, time goes by really fast. Do we have time for maybe 2 more questions?
Yeah, let's do 2 more and then we can wrap it up. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So, okay, tenemos espacio nada más para 2 preguntas. Si alguien tiene una pregunta, porfa, dígala ya. Si no, vamos con las últimas 2 preguntas y terminamos por el momento. Okay, so I see there are no questions for now. And so, so we have a lot of questions. So how, like, thinking about the whole pandemic situation and what that has done to everyone
Yeah.
in terms of mental health and job stability and all of this, I've seen colleagues that had to leave music and pursue other things because things are just not working out. A lot of that has to do with burnout. So I was gonna ask you about your experience with burnout, and if you have any uh, advice for people that might be going through this.
Well, I think it's very normal. I used to think it would never happen, but I've gotten burned out. My wife used to warn me about that. You're going to get burned out. And I'd say, no, I'm not going to get burned out. I love it. But after a while, you go crazy. You stay in it too deep, or you work super hard. You can get tired. You get burned out, and then also life circumstances, of course, like you said, the pandemic and things like that, play a big part in that. When it feels like you're climbing a lot uphill battles, it can be difficult. But I think it's always important to have a healthy lifestyle that you're not just focused on your music all the time. That's one thing I think is really important. I'm not a person that I would never want to. I don't want to let's say that I'm the person who has the great example of that, but I try. I do. I try to go. I do a lot of running. I do jogging, exercise. In the summer when it's nice, I play basketball. I belong to a sports club where I go and shoot baskets, and I go jogging on the machines. And my wife and I this year have taken up tennis. We play tennis. We just played today, as a matter of fact. So just trying to that. I love to read. We'd watch movies together. We, things like just try to do fun things, and also, I have a family. My kids are older now, but, I had 3 children, and that always balances you. So sometimes sort of things that can help you stay balanced, I think can help you with not just avoiding burnout, but it can help you with burnout. Because when you're burned out, I usually think what I need to do is I need to focus outside myself and focus on other people, whether it be my students, or of course my family, my wife, my friends. That outward focus can really help get my mind away from the burnout, and also help me to focus on other things that are important to me and give me a lot of joy, and people that are important to me, whether it be family members or friendships, so I think those are some things to do. Find things that you like to do, and and I think it's also important always to take a break. I always tell my students they have to take some time off in the summer. They don't have to practice all summer. Take some time, get rejuvenated, get refreshed. You always want it to feel like, oh, I can't wait to get back and practice again, or I can't wait to get back to school, or whatever it is you're doing. You want to try to find a way to put yourself in a position where it feels like, okay, I'm excited to go and start up again. You need that. So I think those are the ways I personally cope with it and work toward avoiding it, or just maintaining something that's keeps me from feeling like, oh my gosh, and things to look forward to. Like my wife and I are heading to Florida on Friday for about 4 days as a little vacation, and my father has a place down there that he's staying at. So we're going to go down there and hang out. But it's something to look forward to. Like we're going to get through. We have a busy week. I have some concerts to do here at school and some things that are happening, and then go for a few days, and get away and get a break, and then come back and feel refreshed and get back into what you got to do. And, I think that's the rhythm of life that's really kind of helpful. So.
Okay.
And also, I keep saying, one more thing. Sorry, one more thing.
That's fine. It's fine.
I was gonna say one more thing is that also within percussion, do things that are fun. Like if you're a percussionist, you're getting burnt out. Maybe you need to I always tell my students when they're practicing, they need to have some practice time that's fun practice time. Maybe it's sitting down and trading fours on drums with your friends, or maybe it's sight reading together because you like to sight read. Maybe it's reading through some new music. You can also avoid burnout within what you do as a musician by doing some fun things with it, not always doing the stuff you feel like you have to do. Do some stuff that you really love to do, because that's important. You got to keep the joy there. So. Sorry, I'll be quiet now. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine, it's fine. Ok, la pregunta era sobre cómo sobrepasar o qué consejos tiene en cuanto al síndrome del quemado, ¿verdad? El famoso burnout que a veces existe en estas cuestiones artísticas. Bueno, él está diciendo que siempre es importante buscar como un equilibrio, ¿verdad? Tomar los descansos necesarios para no caer en esos comportamientos, ¿verdad? Y buscar que, bueno, que en las cosas que practiquen, practiquen cosas que sean divertidas, busquen cosas que les guste hacer por diversión, ¿verdad? Para que, cierto, el estudio es importante, las piezas que ustedes tienen que sacar y todo, pero no pierdan la oportunidad de estudiar algo que les parezca divertido, o como él dice, intercambiar cuatros ahí en la batería con alguien más o una cosa así, ¿verdad? Ese es el resumen de la pregunta, pero muy importante tomar descansos porque esto es una cuestión real que les pasa a todos. Él mismo estaba diciendo que también le había pasado a él. Entonces, sepan seccionar, digamos, las cosas. Creo que aquí estoy parafraseando un poco, pero sepan seccionar las cosas en el sentido de que, por ejemplo, el tiempo para descansar es el tiempo para descansar, el tiempo para estudiar es el tiempo para estudiar. De esta forma no se mezclan las cosas y pues caemos en ese estado tan complicado. Okay, so let me see. We have one question here, but I'm not really sure what the question means. I don't think I can translate it very well. It's talking about body what's the word? Balance as a percussionist. I think it's more of the physical side of percussion. I asked for clarification. I didn't get any, so I'm gonna jump to the next question. So let's do something because I think we're out of time. So we're gonna jump to the last thing. Vamos a brincar a lo último ya. So if you could leave us, first of all, thank you very much for giving us your time. It's
my pleasure.
It's been a pleasure here too. We all appreciate the fact that you took the time of your day to talk to us a little bit.
I'm happy to talk. It's great. It's fun.
So the last thing that we wanted to ask was, what would be your final message to everyone that is listening to you tonight?
My final message. I mean, first of all, thanks for your enthusiasm for music and percussion, and like I said earlier, stay with it. Stay with it and spread the joy to others. I think creating a community around music and percussion in particular is a really exciting and great thing. And bringing others into that community and helping others to see the value and the real special moments that we get to have as musicians is something that I feel like people that don't have those experiences, I feel sad for them in some ways, because I feel like I'm blessed to have those experiences, whether it be performances or teaching experiences in that with musicians, or So I would say that, and don't get discouraged, because I feel like music always finds a way. People get worried about the arts, and I know it's a real concern, worried about in certain areas that can have support to have the arts, but I always feel like most cultures are defined by the arts more than anything else in the history of mankind. So the arts aren't going away, and it's just going to take us to work hard to remind those around us how important they are through our work and through our innovation, our creativity, our persistence, and our passion for it. That's what's really super important. And if we continue that, it will survive and it will do well, because people need it. They need music in their lives. They need art in their lives. They need music in their lives. They need people that are making music, because it really, I think, is something that elevates everyone's life experience. So stay with it and do it.
Awesome. All right. So I'm just going to close everything in Spanish and just ask you to stay for a couple of minutes.
And also, just everyone, if I ever get to meet you someday, please stop me and say hello, and would love to meet you and chat and see how you're doing and how things are going in your neighborhood or in your area. And if I can ever help anyone, please don't hesitate to reach out to me anytime.
Awesome. Entonces, bueno, el mensaje que nos regalaba el maestro era que, bueno, hay que mantenerse haciendo esto. Él sabe que todas las cuestiones de la vida han sido bastante complicadas últimamente, y que el mundo y las culturas se definen por el arte, y el arte, la música, no se va a ir a ningún lado y siempre va a estar ahí, y que hay que seguir adelante y mantener ese impulso. él lo dijo tan bonito que cuando tengamos el video voy a cortar esa parte para que ponerla por ahí, porque lo dijo mucho mejor de lo que yo puedo estar tratando de decirlo en este momento. Entonces, sin más, muchísimas gracias al maestro por el tiempo. Muchísimas gracias a todas las personas que se conectaron el día de hoy por Zoom y por Facebook Live. Percusión Costa Rica cierra hoy la segunda temporada. Vamos a retirarnos durante un tiempito a terminar los proyectos que quedan pendientes de videos y cosas así, y vamos a concentrarnos en eso. Recuerden que pueden encontrarnos en Facebook y en Instagram como Percusión Costa Rica. De verdad que yo estoy muy contento de haber podido compartir con ustedes esta ocasión tan increíble, ¿verdad? Y que para cualquier cosa, bueno, también el maestro lo dijo, si algún día lo ven en la calle, donde sea, salúdenlo, porque él tiene toda la disposición para ayudar, y pues no tengan miedo de ponerle un mensaje, ¿verdad? Si ocupan o quieren preguntarle algo. Entonces, muchísimas gracias a todos, que pasen un excelente resto de su semana. Yo soy Juanjo, espero que me les vaya muy bien, y pues nada, nos vemos en la próxima. Que les vaya muy bien.